My instructor made us weigh in twice every morning because the first reading might be wrong and took away praise based on the number. When I asked why, she grabbed my stomach and said, "Look at your sister. She knows that strength requires sacrifice." I just stared at her. That was 10 years ago. Now she's in maximum security after they raided her facility. My name is Lena. I'm 22 years old now, but this story begins when I was just 8, back when my world revolved around bruises, weight checks, and the constant sound of a stopwatch ticking in my ears. We lived in the hills outside San Diego, inside what looked like a compound more than a home, long concrete walls, mirrored training rooms, a food scale in the kitchen. My mom, Dahlia, ran what she called a discipline sanctuary for elite martial artists, but to me it was just prison with punching bags. Reina, my older sister, was the golden one. She was 9 when the real training began. Taller than me, leaner, already strong. I was softer in every way. I cried when I fell. Reina didn't cry. She got back up and asked for another round. Every morning started the same. We lined up in our compression gear, facing the mirror, and stepped onto the scale. Mom stood there like a general, clipboard in hand. Reina always made weight 91 pounds on the dot, or sometimes even less. Me? I was always a few ounces over. "You're not ready," she would say, shaking her head. "Reina, suit up. Lena, go run drills until you earn your place." I hated drills, not because they were hard though they were, but because they were lonely. Mom only paid attention to the ones who excelled. Reina got everything. Custom sparring gloves in black and gold, like the ones Mom used in her prime. Private lessons in the isolation chamber. Protein gels, full-body cryo sessions, medals displayed in her corner of the training hall. Me? I got a warning every time I ate a granola bar. A slap on the hand when I reached for juice. Once I finished half a banana before training. Mom made me do jump squats until I threw up. I remember her looking at me with something like disgust and saying, "That's what happens when you feed weakness." Even when I got straight A's at school, when I brought home my first perfect test score, she didn't care. "Mental focus is worthless without a body to back it up," she said. Do you see Reina bragging about school? No. She knows what matters. I used to sneak peanut butter into my room. Just a spoonful hidden in a paper towel. I'd eat it slowly in the dark like a secret. Reina caught me once. She didn't say anything, just looked at me with this disappointed pity, as if she already knew I wasn't built for greatness. But the memory that sticks with me most is from a Sunday afternoon. I asked Mom why she only hugged Reina after training, never me. She didn't even hesitate, just walked over, pinched the fat on my stomach and said, "Because love is earned, Lena. Look at Reina. She understands what strength requires." That sentence has lived in my chest ever since, like a shard of ice that never melts. I stopped asking for hugs after that. Stopped asking for anything, really. I was 13 when it happened. I'd just come home from an academic decathlon upstate. I'd won 2 medals, one in science and one in persuasive speech. It should have been a good day. Dad even called to say he was proud. His voice was scratchy through bad reception, but it still meant something. It was the first time in months he'd remembered I existed. I walked through the front gate still wearing my competition blazer, medals clinking softly in my pocket. The sun was setting, casting long shadows across the concrete training yard. That's when I saw her, Reina, slumped against the corridor wall, halfway between the mirror room and the main hall, her arms limp, her legs sprawled. There was a bottle beside her. One of those small brown supplement bottles Mom always kept in the locked cabinet, the kind with words like metabolic acceleration and for elite athletes only. It was empty. I dropped my bag and ran to her. "Reina." My voice cracked. I shook her shoulder. Her skin was clammy, her breath shallow. Her eyes fluttered open for a second. "Mom's evaluation," she whispered. I wanted to be ready. I remember freezing for a second. Just 1 second. Then I grabbed my phone and dialed 911. I rolled her onto her side, the way we were taught in first aid. Held her hair back when she retched. Kept talking to her even when her eyes rolled back. It took less than 10 minutes for the ambulance to arrive, but it felt like hours. At the hospital, I sat outside her room until they let me in. Reina was awake by then, pale but coherent. I expected her to say anything, but the first thing out of her mouth was, "Did I pass the weight check?" That's when something broke in me. Not because she asked the question, but because of how she asked it. Calm, focused, like nothing else mattered. Like she still needed Mom's approval, even on the edge of death. After that, I changed. I stopped sneaking food. I stopped looking at report cards. I stopped dreaming of a life outside the compound. Survival became my new priority. I mimicked Reina, skipped breakfast, trained until I bled through my socks. I wrapped my ribs before weigh-ins to flatten out the difference. I learned to fake energy, smiles, posture, hollow gratitude. I learned how to throw a punch with a fever and run laps with a pulled muscle. And Mom noticed. She never praised me directly, but I got fewer punishments. She stopped calling me soft. That was its own kind of reward. I started vanishing piece by piece, not all at once, just little things. I stopped raising my hand in class. I let go of piano lessons. I never argued again when Mom pushed back dinner until we earned it. Sometimes Reina would look at me during stretches, her eyes a little glassy. I wondered if she saw it, that I was turning into her. Or maybe she was just too far gone to care. I told myself I was adapting, but really I was erasing myself. That was the only way to survive in our house. Be useful. Be silent, be thin, or be nothing at all. I was 15 the day he came back. The last time I'd seen my dad, he was kissing us goodbye at the airport before some contract in Europe, satellite work or flight systems I never really understood. Raina and I waved through security while Mom stood stiff, already mentally back in the gym. That had been 3 years earlier. Then suddenly he was at the gate. Not the airport, the compound gate, holding a duffel bag, looking like he hadn't slept in a week. I was in the yard doing tire flips when I heard Raina scream from inside. It wasn't panic, it was rage. I ran to the front, wiping sweat from my eyes, and there he was. Matthew Kim, the man who used to tuck us into bed and let us sneak extra rice during warrior weeks. He hugged me before I could think. I didn't even hug back at first, I was too stunned. Jesus, Lena, he muttered, pulling away. What the hell happened to you? That night, he didn't leave. He stayed, sat at the kitchen table while Mom paced and snapped and accused. He didn't raise his voice once. He just laid out a folder of medical reports, mine and Raina's, and photos I didn't know existed. Bruises, underweight charts, x-rays of Raina's fractured wrist from that advanced grip test. Mom called it slander. He called it custody. It took months, court hearings, mediation, emergency evaluations. Raina stood by Mom the whole time, glaring at Dad like he was a traitor. She wore long sleeves even in summer, said nothing unless prompted, repeated lines we both knew were Mom's. She never forced us. She made us strong. She kept us safe. Meanwhile, I sat next to Dad and said very little, but I didn't need to. The record said enough. The pediatrician Mom hadn't seen in years said enough. The bruises under my ribs said enough. Eventually, a judge ruled what should have been obvious. I was not safe with her. So I left. At first, it didn't feel like freedom. I missed Raina like a phantom limb. I still woke up at 4:45 expecting a whistle and a way in. I flinched every time someone raised their voice, even in laughter. But slowly things shifted. We moved to a small house in Chula Vista, close enough to a school where no one knew me. I joined volleyball. I made friends who didn't ask about scars. I ate sandwiches with mayonnaise and didn't cry about it later. I gained 16 pounds in the first year. Dad let me sleep in on Sundays. He asked how school was. He left granola bars in my bag. I was physically safe. Emotionally, I was still unraveling. I avoided mirrors. I changed in bathroom stalls. I apologized every time I ate. But I wasn't under Mom's roof anymore. That had to count for something. Even if Raina stayed behind. Even if I felt like I'd abandoned her. I'd escaped, and that was the first thing I hadn't failed at in a very long time. I turned 18 in February. That same week, Mom called for the first time in 3 years. She didn't say happy birthday, just said, Raina wants to see you. Her voice was tight, like someone trying not to lose a negotiation. I told Dad I'd think about it. He didn't fight me on it. He never did when it came to Raina. So I went. Against everything my gut screamed, I went. The compound hadn't changed. Same gray walls, same buzz of fluorescent lights. I half expected to see my old reflection in the hallway mirror, sunken cheeks, bruised knuckles, the girl who weighed herself twice a day. Raina opened the door. She looked awful. Her arms were thinner than I remembered. Her skin was pale with a waxy kind of sheen. Her eyes were hollow but alert, like someone who hadn't slept but refused to rest. She wore that old black compression suit like it was armor. Wow, she said, scanning me up and down. You really let yourself go. I didn't respond. I just stepped inside. Mom appeared from the kitchen like she'd been waiting. She looked older, sure, but more alert than I remembered. Her hair pulled back so tightly it made her face sharper. Still had that same voice, measured, cold, like she was reading a checklist. Sit, she said. I didn't. She didn't bother with small talk. She gestured toward a shaker bottle sitting on the counter. Raina drinks this before conditioning. It'll help clear your system. I looked at it. The liquid was gray. It smelled like vinegar and rot. I'm good, I said, stepping back. It's just ginger and potassium, she snapped. But I saw Raina reach toward me, her grip ready. Something in her hand, a vial? A syringe? That's when the switch flipped. No, I said louder. Don't touch me. Mom's face twisted. Don't be dramatic. Raina grabbed my arm. I jerked free and ran. I locked myself in the bathroom, heart pounding. Called Dad. She tried to make me drink something. Raina helped her. She's not okay. She's not okay. His voice was calm but urgent. Stay there. I'm sending help. I sat on the tile floor while Mom banged on the other side of the door, alternating between rage and that sickly sweet coaxing she used when we were little. Lena, you're overreacting. You always were the sensitive one. Police and paramedics showed up fast. The look on the officers' faces when Raina opened the door was enough. They didn't ask many questions, just walked straight in and started separating us. Raina didn't fight it. She just stood there, twitching, jaw tight, eyes glassy. We were both taken to the hospital. In the ambulance, Raina lay on the stretcher across from me. I didn't say anything. I just stared at the metal floor, trying not to cry. Then she whispered, she gave me purging vials this morning too. I looked at her. She didn't cry. She didn't flinch. Just stared up at the ceiling like someone reporting the weather. That was when I knew this wasn't training anymore. This was life or death. Mom hadn't changed. And Raina wasn't just trapped. She was dying. 2 days later, I was locked out of the hospital. Not figuratively, physically. When I tried to badge in through the visitor wing, the security guard stopped me. Said there was a temporary protection order filed in my name. On what grounds? I asked, already knowing the answer. Digital harassment, threats, ongoing mental health concerns. He read from a clipboard like it was a grocery list. I turned and walked straight to the sidewalk, trying not to cry where people could see me. Mom was moving fast now. While I sat in waiting rooms and answered polite questions from cautious professionals, she'd been weaponizing everything she had. My name was flagged. My presence was officially labeled disruptive. And online? That's where it got worse. The next morning, I woke up to a flood of comments and DMs, Facebook posts, Reddit threads. Even my LinkedIn profile had messages. She's always been unstable. I heard she left home years ago and never looked back. Why is she inserting herself now? Wasn't she the one who got caught hacking Reina's health portal? They were all from people in Mom's circle. Former coaches, old academy parents, one of Reina's middle school teachers, even my 9th grade English tutor. It was like a coordinated strike. And it worked. Within 72 hours, my college issued a formal notice. We've received concerning behavioral reports regarding your online activity. You are being placed on academic probation pending a review. I almost threw up reading it. I showed Dad the email. He stared at the screen for a long time before finally saying, she's trying to break you. Not just legally, socially, emotionally. She wasn't even subtle about it anymore. A day later, Dad's bank account was frozen due to unusual activity. Multiple fraudulent transactions were traced back to a health and wellness firm. One that, on paper, was owned by someone in Mom's coaching network. Coincidence? Maybe? But I doubted it. That night, I got a text from someone I hadn't heard from in years. Aunt Mari, Dad's older sister, the black sheep, the one who'd cut ties with Mom before I was even born. Her message was short. I've seen what she's doing. You're not crazy. Call me. So I did. She picked up on the first ring. I warned your father back then, she said, but he thought she'd mellow out with motherhood. I sat on my bedroom floor, gripping the phone like a lifeline. She used to do this to your dad too. Back in high school. Back when their mother was alive. Or grandmother? I asked. Dahlia learned it all from her, Aunt Mari said flatly. Fasting schedules, caffeine pills, steroid drops labeled as vitamin boosts. She used to pit me and Dahlia against each other like we were prizefighters. Said the weakest sister would be the one left behind. I was silent. She's repeating the pattern, she said. Only now it's with you and Reina. My throat was tight. Reina doesn't see it. She can't, Aunt Mari replied. She's still in it. She paused, then added, but you're not. You got out. I wiped my eyes. Barely still counts. We made a plan. A real one. Because this wasn't just about custody or court documents or expired tonics. This was a system. A legacy of control. Passed from one woman to the next. And I was going to be the one to break it. We caught her at Cafe Kaizen on a Tuesday. Dad and I had parked across the street just to breathe. We didn't plan on finding anything, not that day. But there she was, sitting on the patio under a green umbrella, wearing sunglasses and her clean press track jacket like she hadn't been banned from seeing Reina. She was laughing. Then we saw the man. Not a coach, not a lawyer, some guy in khakis and a ball cap. Nervous, twitchy. He handed her an envelope and she passed him a folder. Dad reached for his phone immediately, snapped 2 photos through the windshield. You getting this? He asked. Yeah, I said, already recording video. It's a handoff. We didn't know what was inside the envelope, but we knew what it meant. Mom wasn't backing down. She was reinforcing her network, trading favors, maybe even paying people off. She was preparing for war. Later that night, I snuck into the hospital. I know how that sounds, but it wasn't illegal. Not really. I waited for the late shift to change, wore plain clothes, used the emergency stairwell. I just needed 5 minutes. 5 minutes to talk to someone who'd actually been there. The night nurse. She'd been the only one who looked me in the eye when I'd first brought Reina in. Her name tag said Yasmin. She wore galaxy print Crocs and carried a tiny notebook in her pocket. She found me outside the vending machines. I know I'm not supposed to talk to you, she said softly. But I saw what she did. My heart jumped. She came in during a shift change. Said she had permission to drop off Reina's digestive support kit. Yasmin's fingers curled slightly in the air like she couldn't stand even saying it. What did she do with it? I asked. She swapped the feeding tube back. I didn't catch it until later, but something was wrong. The color, the smell. You took pictures? Yasmin nodded and handed me her phone. The image was time-stamped. Clear. A hazy plastic bag with an unmarked label hanging from Reina's bedside pole. Do you know what it was? I asked. She shook her head. But I ran the residue through a staff contact in toxicology. Whatever it was, it had a banned diuretic. Not prescribed. Not safe. Not even legal for patients under 18. I closed my eyes. It was worse than I thought. She leaned closer. I never said this, okay? But if it helps your sister, use it. I slipped back out the stairwell without being seen. That night, I remembered something Reina and I used to use when we were kids, back when Mom started locking down our devices. We had a shared email account hidden under an old fake name, sisters_training_log@gmail.com. It was just for notes, dumb videos, secrets we didn't want Mom to see. I logged in on my laptop. It still worked. The inbox was empty, but in the drafts folder, there was one message. I clicked. Subject line, if anything happens to me. It was from Reina. The message was messy, rushed, written in short, panicked lines. She gave me something yesterday. My stomach still burns. I think she's testing doses again. If I collapse, don't believe her. Don't let her have me. Tell Dad. Tell Lena. Help me. I copied the whole thing, screenshots and all, into a secure drive. But as I went back to the email window, just to double check, the screen blinked. Access denied. Locked. I tried again. The account was disabled. Frozen. And then an alert popped up. Your activity has been flagged for unauthorized access. I stared at the screen in disbelief. Mom had found it. She used it. She had baited me. And now? Now she had what she needed to make her next move. Digital harassment. Manipulating Raina. Invasion of privacy. She'd set the trap. And I'd walk straight into it. The emergency hearing was set for Friday morning. I didn't sleep the night before. Neither did Dad. We sat at the kitchen table until dawn, going over every folder, every screenshot, every shaky piece of evidence we had. But we knew what we were walking into. Mom had filed for full medical custody of Raina again. This time she claimed Raina had been influenced by hostile actors, which of course meant me. She said I'd hacked private emails, said I'd stolen hospital information, that I was trying to fracture the family with false memories. And in the courtroom, she had help. 3 people showed up to testify on her behalf: an old academy instructor, a youth fitness counselor, and somehow one of Raina's former teachers from when she was 11. All of them claimed I had a history of erratic behavior. They used words like emotional instability, repressed trauma, and delusional blame. The worst part? They played an audio clip, a recording taken from a phone call between Raina and someone. They edited it, spliced it, twisted her voice into sounding afraid of me. She won't leave me alone, Raina's voice said, distorted just enough to raise doubt. Dad stood and objected. The judge let it play anyway. My hands shook under the table. I couldn't even look at Raina across the room. Couldn't tell if she'd approved that clip, or if Mom had stolen it the same way she stole everything else. When it was my turn to speak, I tried to hold it together. I told them about the files, the training regime, the weigh-ins and fasting. I showed them Raina's draft email, the one she never sent. I showed them the surveillance video from Cafe Kaizen and the photos from the hospital, Yasmin's footage, toxicology reports, the text logs between Mom and her coaching associates. I did everything right, but the room stayed cold. The judge looked tired. The clerk looked bored. The social worker avoided my eyes. And just as it seemed like we were about to lose, like nothing we said mattered, like it was all just going to be swept back under the rug, the courtroom door burst open. The social worker from the hospital, the same one who'd warned me that Mom was filing paperwork behind our backs. I apologize for the interruption, she said, breathless, but we have new documentation that must be entered into the record. The judge paused, then nodded. Proceed. She handed over a flash drive. Inside? Everything. The uncut security footage showing Mom swapping Raina's feeding bag, a time-stamped report from the night nurse with a sworn statement and photographic evidence, and a full CPS investigation filed just 48 hours earlier, confirming Mom had violated at least 3 state laws regarding unauthorized medical intervention. The courtroom changed. Suddenly, everyone was paying attention. The judge leaned forward. Mom's lawyer started whispering fast, frantic, trying to call for recess, but it was too late. The judge revoked the protection order against me. He granted Dad full temporary medical custody of Raina and ordered Mom to be placed under immediate investigation. Then came the final blow. I am issuing an arrest warrant for Dahlia Kim under suspicion of child endangerment, medical abuse, and falsification of legal documents. The bailiff stood. The cuffs came out. Mom stood up slowly like she couldn't believe it. I was saving them, she said, voice trembling. They don't know what the world is like. I was saving them. The judge didn't respond. Neither did we. As they led her away, Raina didn't say anything. She didn't look at Mom. Didn't even flinch. She just looked at me. And for the first time in a long time, I could see her. My sister. Not a soldier. Not a shell. Just a girl who finally saw the way out. It's been 6 months since the courtroom. Mom is in prison now. 8 to 12 years, no parole for the first 5. No contact with either of us unless Raina files for it after she turns 25. The sentence came down hard, faster than we expected. The media picked it up, called it a rare case of intergenerational athletic abuse. People were shocked. They always are when monsters don't look like monsters. Her empire collapsed overnight. The academy shut down. Former students came forward. Some defended her, but more admitted what we already knew. Her training was punishment wrapped in discipline. Control disguised as greatness. And Raina? She's still here. She's still healing. There are good days and bad ones. Some mornings she eats a full breakfast. Others she just stares at the toast, counting the bites she would take. She meets with a trauma specialist twice a week now. EMDR therapy, bodywork, nutritionists. She hates the word recovery. Says it makes her sound like a broken computer program. But she goes. She tries. That's more than she ever could before. She sleeps most nights now. Not always peacefully. Sometimes I hear her crying through the wall. Sometimes she walks into the kitchen at 3 a.m. just to sit and breathe. We don't talk about Mom often. When we do, it's usually short, sharp. She used to give me vinegar pills and call them discipline drops, Raina said once. I threw them up in the sink and cleaned it before she noticed. I never know what to say back, so usually I just listen. Me? I went back to college. I'm still on probation, but my professors know the full story now. The school lifted my restriction once the court cleared my name. I still get anxious logging into social media, still expect to see some stranger calling me unstable, but most of the noise has faded. The smear campaign burned fast and died faster. I work part-time now, just enough to help with expenses. Dad's been covering most of Raina's care with the savings he never thought he'd need. The money doesn't go far. None of us really care. We see Aunt Mari sometimes. She drives down from LA every other weekend, brings Tupperware full of weird quinoa salads and turmeric muffins. She hugs Raina every time like she's still trying to make up for a past she didn't create. You're safe now, she always says. Safe. That word used to sound impossible. Now it's something we're learning how to live inside of. Last week, Raina pulled out a notebook. One of those small black ones she used to carry when Mom let us journal between drills. She tore out the pages and wrote something new. In the middle of a blank sheet, she wrote 3 words. Still here. Trying. She didn't show it to anyone. I only saw it by accident, left open on the table while she brushed her teeth. I didn't mention it. I just smiled, because she is still here. We both are. We still flinch when people clap too loud. Still take stairs carefully as if expecting to fall. Still apologize for things that aren't our fault. But we don't live in silence anymore. We argue over TV shows. We drink milkshakes on Sundays. We cry in the car when we need to. Sometimes we laugh so hard it scares us. And slowly, quietly, we are learning something new. How to live without being afraid of love. How to breathe without asking permission. How to be sisters, not soldiers. That's the ending I never thought we'd get. Not perfect, but finally free.